Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the 53 books I have bought so far this year in 2023. So let's get into it. Alright, our first two books, I have a humongous pile over here, is actually Prince Charming by Rachel Hawkins and the companion, Her Royal Highness, also by Rachel Hawkins. And the first one that came out was actually Prince Charming. And this is about Daisy, that is an outspoken 16-year-old whose sister is engaged to marry the prince, so she gets to move with her sister into the castle, and they hire a poor boy named Miles to help her act like a lady, while the prince's younger brother is trying to drag her along with his scandal. The companion book, Her Royal Highness, is about Millie that discovers she's being cheated on by her childhood friend and her current maybe girlfriend. So she decides to take a scholarship to a boarding school in Scotland where she's actually roommated with a Princess Flora, who they cannot stand each other at first, but then once they get to know each other, Millie might just have another best friend slash possibly girlfriend, but she's not sure if happily ever afters really exist in real life. My next book is probably one that everybody knows, and that is Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This is actually the second book in the Knockmount series. The first one was The Things We Never Get Over, and that book, because I won't tell you too much about this book, that book is actually about a runaway bride named Naomi who comes to Knockmount, Virginia to help rescue her long and estranged sister. But when she gets there, her sister steals her car, steals her money, and leaves her with an 11-year-old niece that she never knew existed. With no money, no plans, no home, and now an 11-year-old that she has to look after. And then that's where Knox comes in. Seeing her life explode, he decides that he can help her, but he is not one that wants complicated or a high-maintenance woman. So, being the bad boy barber, he decides that he's going to help her, but will not stick around until Naomi's trouble turns into danger. So he is going to help her get out of that. Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert is actually a YA book, second chance romance with childhood friends to lovers and enemies to lovers as well. So Bradley is a football player. Now that he's in high school, he's super popular, and he no longer wants to be friends with Celine, who is conspiracy theory obsessed, and he thinks that is embarrassing for him and his new friends. So they soon become enemies where they hate each other's guts. So when Celine decides to sign up for a 2-part survival course in the woods, she's very surprised to see that Bradley is actually teamed up with her to win the prize. So as their adventure begins, they start to rekindle their friendship, and maybe they rekindle a little more. Island Time. Clark is an LGBTQ adult romance where the Kellys and the Lees have nothing in common except that their 2 daughters are married. And they all take a family vacation on a remote island, and then a nearby volcano erupts and they all get stranded on this island for 6 whole weeks where it's only them and 2 workers on the remote island. So everybody in the party is forced to ask a simple question of what they want and who they want. Lunar Love is by Lauren Kung Jessen. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This one is actually about Olivia, who's very excited to take over her grandmother's matchmaking company until she has a rival dating app that could destroy her family's legacy. And that app is actually ran by LA's most eligible bachelor, Bennett. As the 2 of them go head to head between the matchmaking company and the dating app, they decide to make a deal. Find each other a perfect match, and whoever falls in love first loses. This one sounds really good. So Just Last Night by Mahari McFarland. You guys probably can hear the guinea pigs they're eating. I'm sorry. They're over there in the corner. So this one is about Eve, Justin, Susie, and Ed. And they've been best friends since they've been teenagers. But now that they're in their 30s, Thursday night trivia at a local bar is standard. And Eve actually is in love with Ed still and still wonders what could happen if they got together. And Ed still feels the same about her. But in just one night, their lives change. Secrets are revealed, someone from their past comes back, and they always say that every love story can start in a simple night. And that night might just be just last night. So we'll see how this one turns out. I don't know if Eve and Ed are going to get together or if this mystery person from their past that comes back into town is going to be the romance love interest or not. So we will get to this one and find out. Our next two are actually a mini-series. I'm sure that a lot of people probably know which ones I'm talking about. They're Bright Falls mini-series. And this is Delilah Green Doesn't Care and Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. These books I've seen them a lot of places, but I haven't had that many people actually talk about them. So I'm going to tell you about Delilah Green Doesn't Care because it's the very first book in the miniseries, and the third one comes out later this year. So this one is about a New York photographer who is brought back into town by her younger sister, who is Astrid, who wants her to photo shoot her wedding. So when she gets back into town, she meets up with her old bestie Claire, and they actually plan to break up Astrid's wedding because they do not like her fiancé. Clara and Delilah not getting along too well, they finally start hanging out together and trying to break off this wedding engagement, and they finally decide that maybe Delilah's bad girl charm isn't going to keep Clara away. The Love Wager by Lynn Painter sounds really good. Her first book was The Wrong Number, or Mr. Wrong Number, and I still have not gotten to that one. But I might just have to skip that one and just go straight to this one and then work my way back. Because this one sounds really good. This one is about Haley, who's crawling out of a hotel room on her belly trying to hide from her one-night stand when she finally decides that she needs to grow up and it's time to be a real full adult. So she gets a new apartment, a new haircut, a whole new wardrobe, and she signs up for a dating app. But when she gets on that dating app, the guy that she is set up with is Jack Marshall, and that just happens to be her one-night stand. So knowing that neither one of them are good together, they decide that they are perfect to be each other's wing person instead of actually dating romantically. So they decide to make a little bet out of it and make a love wager to go on these double dates and see which one falls in love first. And whoever does loses. But one thing leads to another, and they get invited to a weekend wedding where they decide to fake date. While they're fake dating, they start getting to know each other a little better, and their ideas and thoughts about why they could never work together might just change. Our next book, of course, that I purchased this year is Emily Henry's Happy Place with this lovely sticker on it that I can't get off to save my life. And this one, of course, is an adult romance. It's the most anticipated romance of the year. I'm actually going to be doing a vlog here in a couple weeks when I read this. So I'm going to start very soon, which I'm so excited. And this book is actually about Harriet and Wayne, who have been madly in love since college, but then decided to call it quits about 6 months ago, right before their annual week-long vacation with their group of friends. But since they have not told any of their friends yet, they decide to fake date through the week because it's their last vacation together as friends. So, surrounded by all the people that know them the best, they try to pull off this fake dating, and all of their friends can see right through it, and they actually start to fall back in love. So if you want to see my thoughts when I read this, go ahead and check out the vlog in a couple weeks. Let's mix it up and get something that's not so just romancy. The Gunkle by Stephen Rowley sounds really good. So this is supposed to be wise and hilarious. It's supposed to be about Pat, who is a gay uncle, and he has a niece and a nephew that love spending time with him. But when tragedy happens and he is left to be their parental guardian, things have to change. His fun living lifestyle that they enjoy when they come and visit him on the weekends or for a week in spring or in Palm Springs just isn't going to cut it as their actual guardian, as their parental figure. So he has to make some life changes in order to raise these two little kiddos. This sounds like it could be a hard read just because these kids are left without their parents, but it also sounds like a great family overcoming grief, and he gets to help these kids through that as well as himself. So that sounds like a really good read. The Sweet Spot by Amy Popel is another one that I talked about last week in my last week's video. This one is actually about 3 women who are in different stages of their life. One has 3 kids and is a single mom trying to work as hard as she can. One is newly divorced and the other is in a breakup despair and has a lot of student debt. But a baby is left at their doorstep and they are just 3 unlikely friends that get to figure out and juggle life with a baby and try to figure out what to do with this child. This is basically just a celebration of modern family and how we're all different, but whatever makes our family is our family. And that just sounds really beautiful. It feels really sweet. I'm really excited to jump into this one as well. Really good actually by Monica Hazy. I'm doing it again where I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it is okay. We'll move past it. This one I absolutely loved the cover of and I could not get over it, so I had to buy it. I didn't even know what it was about when I picked it up, but I knew I had to have it because this looks amazing. I've actually seen a lot of mixed reviews on Goodreads about this book, so I'm hoping it actually turns out a lot better than what other people are saying. They're a little disappointed. But this one is about Maggie, who's broke, has a graduate thesis who's not going anywhere, and whose marriage just blasted up in her face after only 608 days together. So this one is following the first year of her single life, where she is getting help from her advisor at school and her newly divorced friend. She's going to try to take up 9 new hobbies, eat burgers at 4 a.m., try to get to her own bed and not wind up on the floor bawling in the morning, and she is going to try to get out there and start dating again. This sounds really good to me because it sounds like just it's supposed to be a hilarious and painful, relatable debut. So hopefully the reviews on Goodreads doesn't affect the outcome of this book. From the Jump by Lacey Walden is actually one of the books that I really want to get to this summer. This one is about Liv, who is an absolute yes woman, and she says no to a vacation with her best friends. But she decides that she is going to start saying no. So she quits her job, hops on that plane, and goes on vacation with her college friends in South Africa with the emotionally unavailable Lucas. But in close proximities, things can get very complicated with longtime friends. Things happen on the trip, and then by the time they're back in LA, Liv is determined to keep all of her friends together and not lose any of them over what happened on this vacation. But her free falling and saying no and quitting her job actually keeps sending her back into the arms of Lucas, which she doesn't want things to get complicated and their friendship to be messed up, but she just keeps going back to him. So we'll see how this turns out. It's supposed to be swoony, funny, and full of heart. So that sounds really good. Our next book that I'm really hoping to get to, because I actually have her second book that's Meet Me at the Lake. This is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This book follows 6 summers of hazy afternoons, warm summer nights with Percy and Sam, where Percy and Sam are slowly but surely falling in love with each other, being friends, until Percy makes the biggest mistake of her life one summer and decides to never go back and never see Sam again. Until 10 years later, when she gets a phone call saying that Sam's mother has actually passed away and she is invited to the funeral. So Percy goes back to the island and runs back into Sam for his mother's funeral, and the connection is just as strong as it was back then. But they have to figure out if love is bigger than their past mistakes to see if their love is actually going to last. This sounds really good because I really do enjoy childhood friends to lovers, because it's like their bond and their connection is so strong because of being friends first, and the character growth is just really good usually. So I'm really hoping to get around to this one too really shortly. Our next one is Tessa Bailey's new one, Secretly Yours. This one I didn't know too much about, but the cover is so cute. This one is actually about Haley and Julian, or almost kissed when they're 14 in his parents' vineyard. And now that they're older, Julian is actually going to return to his small town. Haley is super excited to see if they hit it off like they did when they're teenagers. But now when he returns, being a grumpy professor, they actually are polar opposites with their personality, which kind of throws Haley off. But on a drunken whim, she actually writes him a letter from a secret admirer. So getting this letter, Julian is really confused and wants to know who this woman is that is his secret admirer. But at the same time, he can't get Haley out of his mind, watching her work outside his window, and while he's trying to write a novel because he took a sabbatical from his Ivy League job, and he is trying to get her out of his head because they're just complete opposites, but opposites tend to always attract each other. So we will see how cute this gets. The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest is the perfect bookish book about books. So this one actually is about Lily, who wants to be a children's book editor, but she's stuck in a position at work where she's only being able to do nonfiction editing. So she finds a escape in her correspondence with her favorite fantasy author as a pen pal. But when their friendship turns into something more for her, he actually just ghosts her and she does not know what's going on. So months later, still pretty upset about that, she decides that she needs to find a date for her sister's wedding and it's time to get back out there. So she asks her new neighbor, Nick, for some help on finding a date. But soon after he starts helping her look for a date, he realizes that she is actually the Lily that he used to talk to as a pen pal. But she has not figured out that he is actually her favorite fantasy author and the man who ghosted her. So he's trying to keep that secret, but then he wants to tell her, but he doesn't want to ruin their new friendship. And this sounds really good because he's going to have to figure out how to break it to her that he ghosted her and that he really does truly care about her. So we will get around to that one very shortly. Lucy Checks In by D. Ernest is another one that I absolutely just love the cover because it just looks so pretty, like with the little hotels, and it looks like she's just going on vacation, and it just looks so gorgeous, and it looked really welcoming for summer. So I didn't really know exactly too much about this one, but it actually sounds really good. So Lucy is actually a manager of a very glamorous New York hotel, and she's actually involved with the hotel's owner until he randomly disappears one day and takes millions of dollars with him, leaving Lucy full of questions and alone and just not understanding anything of what's happening. So 2 years later, she takes a job at Hotel Paradise in France to turn this rundown hotel into a glamorous hotel where tourists are just attracted to the beauty. So she takes that leap of faith, goes to this hotel, starts meeting all the people and all the residents, and just makes this her new unexpected home. But she has to figure out if she can take this hotel back to glam before she is back at square one. All right, my pile is still huge, so hopefully this video is not going to be seriously long. Our next one is Nothing But the Truth by Holly James. This one actually seems just a little different than most books I've read. This one is about Lucy, who's about to turn 30, and the night before her 30th birthday, her boyfriend cancels last minute, so she makes a wish to this bartender that she wishes for the perfect birthday. And the next morning she wakes up and her wish has come true, and she soon realizes that she cannot lie to anybody, including her boyfriend, her creepy boss, herself. So everything, including the truth, is going to come out in a very big way in this book, and maybe she'll get some insight about what she really wants, and we'll see how Lucy's 30th birthday goes. Our next book is Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. This is actually the third book in the Finley Donovan series. So I already have the other two, and then I just picked this one up this year when it came out. So Finley Donovan, the very first one, is actually about Finley, who is a single mom of 2 kids, and she is a book writer, and she actually has a book due that she hasn't even written yet. So she goes to lunch with her editor, and she's talking about her plot for this book, and she was overheard and mistaken as a contract killer. And for some reason, she accepts a job to dispose of a problem husband just to make ends meet while she writes her book. Finley soon realizes that real life is a lot more difficult than a fiction novel, and she is soon swept into a real life murder investigation. These books are so good. They're so funny. You basically just fall in love with Finley and want her to get away with whatever she has to do to get away with it. The Lost Ticket and The Last Chance Library by Freya Sampson. These books I've heard so many good things about. They're not something that I would typically just pick up and read the synopsis for, even though they're super cute, so I don't know why I wouldn't. This first one, The Lost Ticket, is about Libby, who meets Frank on a bus in London after a heartbreak, and he tells her all about how he met this woman 60 years ago, and they were going to have a date, but he lost the ticket that had her phone number. So Libby takes it upon herself to help Frank find this lost ticket. He has dementia, and it's progressing really quickly, so Libby wants him to see his long-lost love before anything happens to him and he can't remember her anymore. So this one sounds super cute. It just follows them trying to find this ticket that he lost so that he can see the woman that he thought that he could have been in love with. The second one, Last Chance Library, is about a lonely librarian, June, who lost her mother, and the library is the only thing that connects her back to her mom still and all the books that they used to read together. The library is threatened with closure, so an old childhood friend Alex, that is now a lawyer, decides to help her campaign to save the library. But Alex's feelings are obvious to everybody else trying to save the library except for June, because she is very shy and reclusive, and she just doesn't think that someone like Alex could fall for her the way she could fall for him. So this one sounds really cute. It sounds really hopeful and sounds kind of like a slow burn romance with the main objective being saving the library. Star Crossed by Minnie Dark actually sounds very complicated. So this book actually follows Justine and Nick, who are childhood sweethearts, and Nick actually moves back into town. So Justine thinks that they have a second chance at romance, but he's not acting the same. So she takes it upon herself, because she works at the Alexandra Star Park. She takes it upon herself, make tweaks to the Aquarius copy, goes out in the newspaper before it goes out so that she can get Nick's attention, because Nick bases all of his life decisions on the astrology column in the newspaper. But trying to get Nick's attention by changing the astrology column is the only thing she's thinking about, and not the fact that there are several other people that actually make big life decisions based on the stars and how they align. So this book is supposed to follow kind of the year of the star signs, how she's manipulating them to benefit herself and try to get Nick to notice her. But it's also going to show us a ripple effect on all the other possible love stories or all the other people that she's also affecting by changing the stars. So this one sounds really good. It sounds like it could be a really cute romance, but also sounds like she could be getting herself into a lot of trouble and a lot of people in a lot of trouble. Our pile is slowly getting smaller. Let's jump into these bad boys. These guys are long, but they're so good. So this one, Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco, and the second one, Hunting Prince Dracula. I actually bought both of these this year because I bought this one, I devoured it, and then I had to go pick up this one. But because I devoured this bad boy so fast, I hit like a reading slump right before I jumped into this one. So I got a couple chapters in and I just could not do it. So we took a little break. But so this one being the second one in this YA historical fiction romance, I'll tell you about this guy. So Stalking Jack the Ripper follows the Lord's daughter, Audrey Rose, who is born into wealth, and she has high privileges and she's very high in society. She also lives a second life where she sneaks away to her uncle's morgue and studies forensic science, which in this kind of time frame, which I don't remember exactly what time frame it is, women are not to do that. They're not even to attend college. So she actually hides the fact that she is into forensic science and looks at corpses all day. And she meets Thomas, who is super charming, but they have like a very, very slow burn romance. Like it's slow, but it's so good because you know that they're like perfect for each other, but it's just this time frame that they live in that it's just a slow burn. But so women start being murdered, and they take it upon themselves because they're getting those bodies at the morgue to help with the investigation and to solve the murder. So this one is super good. And then this one, after obviously Jack the Ripper, Audrey and Thomas just end up in Romania and obviously deal with another killing where they think that it's Prince Dracula. So we'll see how that one goes once I finally get back to it, because now I'm not feeling historical fiction because I'm definitely a mood reader. So let's pull over another pile. The Davenports by Crystal Marquise is another historical fiction, and this one is actually set in 1910, and it's a black wealthy family. So this book follows 3 women of the family, 2 of the daughters, and 1 of the best friends of those daughters, and how their lives are in the United States back in this time as wealthy black women, and how their life is decided by society and how they get through that and how they make their own choices. And this book is actually just the first in the Davenport series, but this just sounds like Bridgerton vibes, honestly. So I think it's going to be really good. Bringing Down the Duke by Eve Dunmore is actually one of those books that I'm not 100% sure what it's about. It's England 1879, where Annabelle is offered a spot in Oxford University as one of the first female students. So she actually has to be in this League of Extraordinary Women. But it's going to be a romance, but I'm just not 100% sure what it's about. I think I'm just going to jump into it, honestly, and just figure it out as I go. So that sounds like the best plan. My Contrary Mary by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows sounds really good. It's another one of those historical fictions that I don't know too much about, only that it's about Mary, or Queen Mary. It says, the classy, courtly, courageous tale of the one and only Mary, Queen of Scots. So this is the first one in the Mary series, so I'm hoping to jump into this one, and hopefully I love it just as much as everybody else has, so that I can just continue on to the other ones. Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto sounds really good. This one I actually picked up because of Dial A for Aunties and for Aunties and a Wedding, which I have not read the For Aunties and a Wedding, but I hope to get to that one this year or this summer. But this one is actually about Vera, who's a lonely old lady who lives above her tea shop in Chinatown, and she actually goes down the stairs one morning and finds a man dead in her tea shop holding a flash drive. So like Good Samaritan, she goes ahead and calls the police, but for some weird reason she decides to take the flash drive because she thinks that she can break the case before the police can. So knowing that the murderer is probably going to come back for that flash drive that they lost or that they left with the victim, she decides to take it upon herself to start getting to know every one of her customers and figure out which one is the killer when they come in. But as she gets to know all of her customers, she becomes like their mother hen. Then she has to decide if one of her newfound little chicks is a murderer and if she's going to turn them in or not. So it sounds really good. It sounds like something completely different. But speaking of this one, my next one is kind of similar. So Richard Osman made the Thursday Murder Club series, which again has this, oh, it's not even a sticker, it's just on the book. Okay, so this one is actually about a retirement home where four unlikely friends meet weekly for jigsaw puzzles, and then they can discuss true crime events and try to solve them. Or so they call themselves the Thursday Murder Club. But when a local developer actually is found dead, they decide to take it upon themselves to catch the killer before it is too late. So this honestly has, or keeps giving me like Murders in the Building vibe, which I'm so into. So this sounds really good. Delicious Monster by Leslie Sambury is a humongous book, but I'm still so excited to read it. This one is actually a dual timeline where it is following Brittany 10 years in the future and Daisy 10 years in the past. So Daisy sees dead people and moves to Miracle Mansion, but her paranormal abilities is no match for her mother's secrets and what is lurking in the walls at the mansion. While 10 years in the future, Brittany's timeline is following her and her mother who move into Miracle Mansion. Brittany has a haunted web series online, and she is going to use Miracle Mansion to prove that her mother is a liar and she has lied about Miracle Mansion, and she is going to solve the murder of the young black girl who died 10 years prior. So this one sounds super good. I'm really excited to find out this mystery and see what really happens to Daisy. Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen is one of those books that blew up everywhere. I mean, this is the exclusive Barnes & Noble's book club edition, but the other edition is dark blue, I believe. This one is an adult fantasy magical realism novel. This one is about a building that holds 5 apartments in it, and it is called the Delawisp Apartments, and it's named after these tiny turquoise birds that actually inhabit the building as well as the people. So this book follows Zoe, who comes to claim her mother's belongings after she passes away, and meets the neighbors while she's there. So she meets a girl on the run, a grieving chef, 2 middle-aged sisters, and 3 ghosts. And that is where the magical realism comes in. So while she is there, one of the neighbors actually dies under odd circumstances the night that Zoe arrives. So she is actually swept into the mystery of the Delawisp building, and she tries to figure out what happened to this neighbor and what the heck is going on with this building. So it sounds really good. I'm not too sure how it's going to play out, but I've heard nothing but amazing things, so I'm super excited. And I'm trying to get into a little more like magical realism and see if that genre like grasps my attention, because I'm not super into fantasy. I have to be it has to sound really good for me to go towards a fantasy. This one, The Honeys, I honestly bought because I saw it everywhere, and I love this cover because of all the flowers, and it just sounds like something looks like something that I would love to read for summer or even spring. This one, the synopsis kind of gets me. So this one is about 2 twins, Mars and Carolyn, and Carolyn actually becomes kind of estranged. She stops talking to Mars as much, but Mars doesn't know why, and then she has a tragic death after she's grown very distant. So Mars actually goes to a summer academy in his sister's place, and he ends up, while he's there, seeking out the girls called the Honeys because these bees grow honey, has the beehives behind their cabin that are being maintained. But the girls that are the Honeys that he seeks out are terrifying, and they're glamorous, and they're beautiful. And he soon realizes that he thinks that they have something to do with his sister's tragic death. But the longer he stays at this summer academy, the more his memory falters, and he starts to not remember his purpose and why he's there and why he's trying to solve his sister's murder. So he has to figure out what happened to his sister and what's going on there before he is eaten alive. I know, that is just, it seems like it's all over the place. It says Mars's memory begins to falter in the summer sun, and something is hunting him in broad daylight, toying with his mind, and if Mars can't find it soon, it will eat him alive. So I think he's trying to figure out what's going on at this academy, what it had to do with his sister and her tragic death, and just, it seems very intriguing to me. Maybe because I'm not 100% sure what it's about. Maybe that's why it's intriguing. The Last of August is actually the second novel in the Sherlock Holmes mysteries. And Sherlock Holmes and Jamie Watson are related to, obviously, Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson are obviously related to Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And this is actually the second book. The first book, they attend the same school together and they meet each other for the first time, even though they have all this family connections. And Jamie Watson feels like so drawn to Charlotte, but Charlotte she's just out there because she's related to Sherlock Holmes. So her mind just works like these wonderful different kinds of mysteries. And they actually have a murder at their boarding school, and because of their last names, they become suspects, and the whole book follows them getting to know each other, becoming friends, and figuring out who murdered this kid. Wait for It by Jen McKinley actually sounds super interesting. This book follows Annabelle, who is 30 years old, stuck in a winter Boston. She's been divorced 2 times and has just dodged a 3rd marriage proposal by one of her ex-husbands. So she is so ready to just get out of town and have a fresh start, when her dream job in Phoenix, Arizona opens up and they hire her. Jumps on that plane and gets there as soon as she can. She's renting from a landlord that she just assumes is old and cranky because he leaves her cranky notes, until she finally meets Nick and realizes that he's about her same age and he is in a wheelchair because he had a stroke a year ago. So this book is supposed to be about them helping each other learn to embrace life and how to get past fear. And it says on here that there's no physical reason for him not to recover from his prognosis, and he's just struggling to overcome the paralyzing fear that's keeping him a prisoner in his own home, and she is supposed to help him through that. So I'm kind of getting the vibe or getting the sense that maybe by the end of the book he'll be able to walk again, which sounds super good. I'm really excited to figure that one out. Never Getting Back Together by Sophie Gonzalez sounds super good too, like all of these books. That's why I bought them. But this one is actually a YA novel, and I did not know that it was a YA. But it actually sounds really good. So this one is supposed to follow two girls that both have the exact same ex-boyfriend, and now that he is famous, he actually gets put onto a reality show, and he asks them if they want to participate. So one of the girls is really bent on revenge, and the other actually wants a second chance at love with him and thinks that going on the reality show might give her that. But while they are both there trying to rekindle romance, they actually get tangled up in an unexpected twist where they actually start to fall for each other. Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert is one of those books that is everywhere, and I can't wait to start reading them. I didn't know too much about Chloe Brown. I knew more about the other sisters, but this one is an adult romance about Chloe and Red, and Chloe is chronically ill and has a get a life list because she doesn't think that her life is very exciting, and she's not ready to have this illness and not live life and enjoy it. So she asks Red to help her with this list. It says, enjoy a drunken night out, ride a motorcycle, go camping, travel the world with nothing but a hand luggage, and do something bad. So she asks Red because he's the rebel, and she spies on him every once in a while because she just finds him intriguing. He rides a motorcycle. He is that town bad boy. So she thinks that he is going to help her get a life and do this list. Honestly, I haven't heard anything but good things about it being cute and hilarious and funny, and the Brown sisters are just everywhere, so I can't wait to jump in. The Nanny by Lana Ferguson I bought because it looked adorable, because they look just so cute, like the cute little nanny, the single dad. It sounds adorable. So this one actually is about Cassie, who is unemployed, and she's being evicted from her home. So she has two options. She can either find another job and find it very quickly, or she can open her OnlyFans account again, and she doesn't want to do that. So she decides to take a live-in nanny for a single dad position, and he is so desperate for her to be his nanny, she goes ahead and takes the job, even though she thinks that he is gorgeous and glamorous, and she thinks that living together might be a very dangerous situation, but she goes ahead and does it. She soon discovers that her single dad executive chef once was very familiar with her OnlyFans account several years prior, but she realizes that he doesn't remember who she is and doesn't realize that it's her. So she's trying to keep this secret and doesn't know if she should tell him the truth once they're starting to get closer, or if that's going to ruin all the time that they've spent together and all of the connections that they have made so far. So that sounds really good. I think it's going to be super funny, and I haven't read a book about like a girl on an OnlyFans account yet, so I'm kind of curious how they're going to put that in here. I don't think it's going to be too smutty, but I'm not really sure. See You Yesterday by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This one is the guinea pigs are chasing each other. Sorry, guys. This one is a Groundhog's Day kind of read. This follows Barrett, who is a freshman in college, and she goes to her very first day on September 21st, and everything goes completely wrong. She is humiliated by a know-it-all boy named Miles in her physics class. She botches an interview for the college newspaper that she really wanted, and at a party, she accidentally sets the frat house on fire. Then she turns to her dorm and finds out that her roommate has locked her out, so she sleeps in the commons area. The next morning, she wakes up and she's magically back in her dorm. She doesn't know what's going on, and it's once again September 21st. So she relives that day. She confronts Miles, the know-it-all, in her physics class, and then magically finds out that he has actually been in the same time loop reliving September 21st and has been for months. So they decide to work together, and as they fall for each other day after day and go on romantic adventures together while nobody else knows that they're reliving their day, they figure out that they're really into each other, but they don't know if their relationship can withhold them actually waking up in tomorrow. So this sounds, once again, really good. I don't know why I keep saying that, but I'm really excited to get into that one because there's so many books that try the groundhog thing, but I've never actually been disappointed by any, so that's really surprising. How Sweet It Is by Dylan Newton is about Kate, who is an event planner for weddings. This actually doesn't follow her planning a wedding. Her friend actually asks her to plan a launch party for the best-selling horror author in the industry. So she's not very excited about it, but she goes ahead and does it, and then she meets Drake, and her well-ordered life just turns into a complete nightmare. I'm not really sure how, because it doesn't sound like it'd be a nightmare meeting like a nice looking man, but Drake wants to change up his life, and once he meets Kate, he thinks it is time to make a change and write something that is completely different and out of his comfort zone. Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson is also a mystery, but it's supposed to be a hilarious comedy, romantic comedy mystery, a fresh spin on romance. So this one is about Phoebe, who is obsessed with true crime, and she takes a break from her PhD candidacy to go back to her childhood home and help clean it out after her estranged father passed away. So she goes back home for the summer, and she meets her new neighbor Sam, which she has not decided if he's a serial killer or if he's genuinely a nice guy, and both absolutely terrify her. So I can't wait to jump into that one. The Family Game by Catherine Stedman. I actually didn't know it was supposed to be a horror. I thought it was just going to be like a family game, kind of like the Inheritance game. But this one is about Harriet, who is a novelist that is engaged to Edward, which is an heir to a very powerful family. So Edward has tried to cut ties with his family for a very long time and just hasn't been able to do it for some reason, and she's not sure why. So they get invited back once they get engaged, and she's drawn into this lavishing world that all seems well and promising, and they seem like really good people, until his father Robert hands her a tape that is supposed to be his new novel that he's been working on. And when she starts listening to it, she realizes very quickly that it's not a novel that he is telling her, it's actually a confession of murder. So she's drawn into this game, has to decide whether it's a test of loyalty or if he really did murder someone. And it's a time-honored tradition in their family, a lethal game of survival, where you have 4 rules. You have to listen carefully, do your research, trust no one, and run for your life. That sounds terrifying. It doesn't sound like a horror book that, like, I'm going to be hiding in my bedroom under the covers, locking my door. But it's super intriguing, and that house is just gorgeous. It reminds me of, like, the Haunted Mansions. The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker actually follows Kala, who left Alaska as a child with her mother and left her father. So she has no relationship with her father until she is 26, 29, 26, and lives in Toronto. And she finds out that her father is ill and isn't going to make it much longer. So she decides to jump on a plane back to Alaska to try to make amends, try to get to know him a little bit. And she meets Jonah. And Jonah is an Alaskan pilot who's helping operate her father Ren's charter plane company. And he does not like Kala. He thinks that she's a city girl that needs to just go back and that she's not going to last in Alaska country. As they kind of work together based around her father, they start to know each other a little more, but she is not ready to stay in Alaska. She's ready to go back to the city, and Jonah is definitely not going to leave Alaska because that's all he knows and that's his home. So we'll see where their romance goes. Love at First Sight by Anna E. Collins actually sounds really good. So this one is about Danny, who wants revenge on her ex-fiance, who she found cheating on her with their realtor after they bought this gorgeous house. So what does she do? But she decides that she's going to mess up his future, and she's going to buy the empty lot right next door to that house that was supposed to be their forever home, and she's going to make a vacation home so that she can mess up his mind, mess up his view, and she can prove that she's not someone that needs to be walked all over or stepped on. So she decides to make a spite house. But the only person that she can get to help her from her firm is an architect named Wyatt, who is really handsome, but they are polar opposites. This is kind of an enemies to lovers kind of a sounding one. So she hires him to help her with the plans of this vacation home. And as they start working together, Danny realizes that she might be getting revenge on her ex-husband, but that might not benefit her new relationship with Wyatt. And she can't lose Wyatt because he's her new love. Georgie All Along by Kate Claiborne is about a personal assistant, Georgie, who has always put others before herself until something happens that sends her back to her childhood home, where she has to confront the truth that she always puts others before her and she doesn't know exactly what she wants or where she wants to go. But then she finds a diary that she wrote when she was a teenager about all the possibilities that her life can hold for her. So she decides that she is going to have her unexpected roommate Levi, which is the troublemaker, that used to be the town troublemaker when they were kids and now is the town hermit, that he's going to help her with her wish list, and they're going to work through this diary during the summer. I think it's during the summer. Try to figure out what Georgia really wants. But as they make their way through the diary, she soon realizes that maybe what she really wants for herself is standing right in front of her with Levi instead of in her diary on this list of possibilities that could come true. The Feeling of Falling in Love by Mason Deaver is one of those books that sounds super funny. Neil is set to attend his brother's wedding across the country in LA, which he's going to attend with Josh, who is a childhood friend and currently his friend with benefits. But Josh randomly springs on him that he is in love with him, and Neil is not ready to fall in love. He doesn't have those feelings towards Josh, but Josh is still attending Neil's brother's wedding, so Neil has to find a new date. So he actually forces his horrible roommate Wyatt to go with him as his fake date. And Wyatt thinks that Neil is just being a jerk about the whole situation until they get to LA and Wyatt meets Neil's family and starts to think otherwise. But maybe as they start to actually get to know each other in this whole new setting, maybe they will start falling for each other until all hell breaks loose again. I think this cover is just so gosh darn funny that it just is amazing, because it's like this guy is like falling out of a garbage can and then there's like fake flames. Like where do you come up with this? Like this kind of cover? Like I could honestly just buy it for the cover. The Start of Me and You by Emery Lord. This is the new cover of the book. I just bought it. I haven't read it yet, but this book came out so long ago. So this one is about Paige, and her first boyfriend died in a swimming accident, and she's ready to rejoin the world. So she makes a plan, says date a boy, attend parties, join a club, travel, and swim, which is absolutely terrifying to her now. So she actually decides that she might want to date this boy named Ryan that she's had a crush on for a very long time, until she meets Ryan's cousin Max, and her plans take a serious loop and all things change. So I wonder if this is going to be like a love triangle between her and Ryan and Max, or if Ryan even feels the same way about her. We'll see. Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I feel like I have another book by Lynn Painter. I don't know. I'll have to look. This one is about Liz, who is a romantic comedy fanatic, and she loves all of the romance movies. So she wants the perfect all-out movie scene where a boy is standing outside her window with a boombox, or she's leaped into the air like Dirty Dancing. She wants that movie moment. So the boy next door that's lived next door to her for her entire life is Wes, and she's decided long ago that he's just a pain in her butt, and she is not getting that movie romance vibe from him. Now that they are seniors in high school, she wants that moment to be at prom. And that's the perfect time because her longtime crush Michael has just moved back into town, but he has not noticed her at all and has become very friendly with Wes. So Liz takes it upon herself to have Wes help her get Michael's attention. But while they're scheming together, she starts to realize that maybe she likes to be around Wes more than she thought she did. That sounds really good because it sounds like something I'd want, honestly. I love all those kind of movies. The Notebook, Dirty Dancing, like they have their romance moments. And it sounds like that's all that Liv wants, but she doesn't know if she wants it with Wes or with Michael. Now to get into actually a couple fantasies, which, like I said, I'm not super drawn to, but this one sounds good. So this one is Blood Like Magic by Leslie Sambury again. This book was actually her first book, and then I picked up The Delicious Monsters, but I decided to pick up this one as well. So this one is about Voya, who is a witch, and in her family, they have to wait for the trials called the Calling in order for them to get their full power. So she's been waiting years for her time to see if she can become a full witch until she fails her calling trial, in which she wasn't expecting. So she goes and talks to the elders, and they give her an ultimatum. They tell her that if she agrees to a second chance, she can kill the first boy that she ever falls in love with. If she fails and doesn't kill that first love, then her entire family line loses their powers. So she has to find true love, and then when she does, she obviously has to figure out how to save him, save herself, and save her family power so that she can save her family's legacy. And that is going to be a very hard, very tall order for her to do. Our last fantasy is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. His new one just came out, which I have not picked that one up yet. That one's about like little robots, kind of give me the Wall-E vibes, honestly. But this one is about Wallace, who thinks that he is dead because he's at his funeral and the Reaper has just shown up to take him away, but he doesn't want to be dead yet. Then he realizes that he's definitely gone when he goes to when he ends up in a tea shop, and the tea shop owner tells him that he is there to help him pass over to the other side. But because Wallace is not ready to leave, the tea shop owner tells him that he has 1 week to live a lifetime. This book is supposed to be hilarious, haunting, and super sweet, super kind. So I can't wait to jump into this one. This one sounds like something that's a little more up my alley than the robots, the Lives of Puppets. But if I really enjoy this one, maybe I'll go ahead and pick that one up as well. Okay, the last 2 books I have, I'm not really going to tell you too much about, but they're just nonfiction books that I picked up. This one is How Are You Really? By Jenna Kutcher. This one's supposed to just ask a simple question, trying to check in with yourself, see if you're living the life that you're working really hard to, or that you worked so hard for. And Everyday Magic by Maddie James is another one that's just supposed to help you evaluate the tasks and decisions that you're faced with daily and being honest with yourself, getting insight with tools. This one's just supposed to be kind of one of those where you can't do everything, but you can still do as much as you can and what you should do, so you're kind of choosing which one's which. All right, guys, so that is the 53 books that I have bought so far this year in the year of 2023, and I can't wait to get around to reading all of these books. Hopefully they don't just sit on my physical TBR for too long. If you have read any of these books, let me know down in the comments which ones and if you've enjoyed them. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!